Top of the hour, so let us begin. So I'd like to welcome Patch Linden today as our guest on What's Up with the Lab.
Howdy, glad to be here.
Hi. So anyway, Patch, you're a resident since 2004. You're born into Second Life in 2007. Right, and I know you've had a variety of roles from support to now VP of production operations. And part of that job is to bring the best of product and support based on decisions on a daily operations basis to the virtual world platform in Second Life. Patch also maintains oversight on how all the various teams within Linden Labs can best work together for the highest good of the residents. And it's wonderful to have you back here again. I think this is like the fourth or fifth time we've had you back on here.
Yeah, it's been a few times, I know for sure, and probably even before that. I usually was either aside Ebbe or backstage with him, calling me fondly during.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been a huge shock to everybody last year when Nebby passed.
It was very difficult, super challenging time, not just for myself and everybody within the company as well, but he was a close friend and mentor of mine. It was absolutely difficult. There's probably no words I can really describe how impactful it was.
Although there's been huge changes since then. I mean, obviously there's been several new directors that have come on board. With Oz leaving, I think, who is it now? I've forgotten the name of the new person
Mojo.
That's taken over for Oz. Mojo, yeah, okay. So, but nobody's replaced Ebby yet, correct?
No, correct. So, when Brad purchased the company, he actually saw this really fantastic dynamic that existed in between myself and my other counterparts, which consist of what we call the Office of Second Life internally, and that is made up of myself, Grumpity, who's the VP of Product, Brett, who's the VP of Marketing, and now having replaced Oz, Mojo, who's the VP of Engineering. And he has been working with us to basically helm and run Second Life as our product, because we care very, very dearly for it. We're all very passionate for it. And, he believes in and trusts us with our daily guidance and judgment to make the right decisions for Second Life.
Cool, that's awesome. So speaking of the daily decisions for Second Life, I'd like to sort of pick your brain a little bit, and I want to break this into two sections. The first piece to talk a little bit about the product development changes that have been happening and are going to occur, and then the second piece to deal with operations. So I want to talk a little bit about product development first.
Okay.
So over the last year, what type of new features and enhancements have you guys sort of brought to the table?
Oh goodness. Well, there's been a handful. A lot of it's been kind of behind the scenes. With our move to AWS, we've made a lot of product and feature enhancements that have leveraged our ability to be on such a platform compared to being hosted on something like a bare metal server platform. And so a lot of those sometimes tend to be transparent to us residents in Second Life, but some of them can be felt. Performance gains and such, the ability to run regions with more avatar use capacity. We have actually even been experimenting with some other things in that area here recently. Certainly talk about the the marketplace has actually seen quite a bit of tuning and refinement as well. Search got a reskin. We brought out the ability to add two-factor auth Second Life accounts, and that's also going to be right now it's currently web, but it'll come out on the viewer as well. Yeah, gosh, my mind kind of gets lost trying to think through all of the various things. But that's probably a good start.
And so with that, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, obviously, especially with the switch over to AWS. So are there specific things like, and especially from an education standpoint, that we should be looking forward to and what we might start to see over the next year?
Perhaps. Okay.
Perhaps. Okay.
Yeah, perhaps. One of the things, and what I just alluded to, was the fact that we're tinkering with these larger capacity, higher capacity. Right now, we kind of internally call them event regions. They have the ability to run safely, I'll say, north of 100 agents per region. Our testing is, still kind of bearing out exactly where the threshold lies between, running good. And when I say running good, I think of it in the context of take some of your most popular shopping events, and that's actually some of the places we have been testing them. And, imagine them no longer having to have this notion of a cam region sitting next to them. Instead, you can literally have north of 150 agents, 150 avatars in a concurrently, and still be able to walk around and move and see everything freely, as well as a region like that performing with, let's say, 35 or 40. So we test and compare against our real world kind of on the ground knowledge of how these things typically run for you guys, and myself included, because it's probably go to an unhealthy amount of shopping events. And I know when I go into those regions what to expect and what it's like, and it's kind of mind-blowing to be able to go into one of those regions when we have it running on that piece of infrastructure. And to know that I'm in a place where I don't have 30 or 40 people around me. I have 150, 175 people around. And I can interact with them all if I wanted. So it's really cool. And I think that that's going to lend itself in education to maybe actually see the realization one day of having true large-scale, like auditorium-style events beyond the capabilities of what we see today. Kind of like we're sitting here right now in a 4-region corner border type setup to split the load. We might only need 2 regions if much capacity out of that going forward, or maybe even 1. We'll see. Our testing isn't done. We haven't quite put all of the wheels on this yet as a product. So things like cost and what other features and benefits it might come with have yet to be decided. It's stuff I'm thinking about, though. But time will inform us, and we'll probably see more of it. So if you happen to go by one of those really big popular events, I don't want to call out any of them by name. There's certainly no order of picking them. We just kind of randomly select one and go, hey, do you want to try this with us? And you might see that if you're out there at some of the big popular ones.
Yeah. Will we be seeing some of those at the Relay for Life events coming up?
I haven't made any decisions on that yet, but maybe.
Okay. The because I know in talking to some of the education folks and also some of the folks that do theater, live performance, this type of stuff. Since we moved over to AWS, it appears as if there still is some performance tuning that needs to be done. And so I'm wondering where some of that may fit in. I mean, we've heard and seen things where certain scripts that used to run quickly before still run, but they don't necessarily run as fast. And I'm wondering if that is a function of the move to the cloud, because it seemed to happen around the time.
Well, so yeah, we're always looking at region performance statistics and metrics, and especially right now with this lens on everything we are working through with the event region. It's really important to us to kind of get that dialed in. I feel like the success of a product like that really has to rest on its own merits. Have to or this is my thesis internally on the product, is, you have to be able to have this product stood up and it really actually make a difference in order for it to be successful. And the only way you're going to do that is to prove it. And so with that, and with all of the testing we've been doing on those regions, it has actually led to other discoveries and other things that we've looked at in performance tuning on regions in general, so not just those, that we feel like will probably come as kind of a side benefit to us having undertaken this other project. I've heard the case of, it's interesting you actually brought that up, I've heard the case of, I have this particular script that used to run, really well, and now it's like a slug. I have yet to actually have a really good proven use case of that. I think QA maybe has a couple. I haven't personally seen practice yet. So I would actually be interested in digging in on that a little bit myself and seeing comes of that. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer to your question. I think you asked a second part to that.
Well, no, but it's a good answer, because I mean, whenever you're dealing with something like this, there's a lot of moving parts to it. Right? And when you fundamentally change the underlying architecture, right, it's going to introduce new opportunities and new challenges. Right? And part of that is also, finding intermittent problems that might be hard to track down. So I can understand the frustration in that, we're seeing some performance limitations, but then when we try to replicate it, it's sort of like, well, they only replicate in a stressed environment.
Right, exactly. It's definitely been interesting. We actually saw, for example, in some of our really early testing, we saw that the impact of avatars on the region in relation to the actual memory that the simulator host is using exponentially grew for some reason once we kind of got past 175. My goal in standing up the product, by the way, just the dart that I threw out there was I want to hit 200. And so we're marching our way towards that. I don't know how close we're going to get, but we found those interesting things along the way. And just to let you know, we did actually hit 197 in one of those really big shopping events. And unfortunately, we made it an hour at that, and, of course, the inevitable happened. But, hey, it's a learning experience, right? And we figure it out as we go.
It'll be really cool next year, though, when we bring 1,000 people into our main stage here, though.
It could be amazing.
It would. I think that would be incredible. Other aspects with regards to the new architecture. One of the things that we've been finding through our conversations with educators and our surveys and what have you is that more people are looking at creating immersive experiences here. And so not using it solely for social communication, but actually trying to build more interactive components. So right now you're hooked up to AWS, which has a ton of additional opportunity there. So things like voice to text, text to voice, machine learning, artificial intelligence, these particular types of things. Are you guys looking at integrating more of that into the product here?
Yeah, we are always analyzing the various facets of the kind of the scope of offering that the AWS platform does tend to give us. Well, I mean, as you know, the viewer is one piece of software, and then there's the simulator and all of the running infrastructure behind it are separate and other pieces of the software and or components that make this wonderful thing run that we call Second Life. And leveraging cloud-based technologies to operate within the viewer probably has some developmental challenges that we would have to tackle. Especially when I think of like text-to-speech, right? Since you brought that up as a specific example, we would have to engineer a piece of the viewer software code to talk to an external service to enable that. And that would take some amount of time to build. I think it's a worthy endeavor. I absolutely support us doing it, much like I would like to see us do on-the-fly translation capability. I think that would also be another really big benefit to have. And where those sorts of features and development opportunities lie in the roadmap, generally sits more in Grumpy's wheelhouse than mine, but I do know that it is something that she puts a lot of thought into and kind of keeps on the table that are moving through various projects over time.
So I know you've just now sort of referred some of the product stuff over Grumpy's way, but I'm hoping maybe you've got some additional insight on some of these things. So areas such as better integration with mobile and the ability to reduce the complexity of the viewer so that it can run on like a Chromebook type of thing. Are these things still on the plate? Are they still being looked at?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've had a long-running mobile strategy kind of bubbling around in the background. We've tried different approaches. We're trying to find the best combination or set of experiences that we think would work and benefit everybody the best. It's no secret that we're working on it, so I'm pretty comfortable talking about some of it. I don't profess to be able to say, oh, it's going to be 2 months from now. Give you a timeline, but a mobile. So we think about mobile strategy in two ways. We have both a direct or a mobile kind of companion application strategy that we consider in our approach, and then the other is a call it software light or even perhaps a streaming solution, is still very much something we're actively pursuing and trying to find the right approach to. The streaming space is constantly changing, and it's probably the more challenging one. We do believe that for the purposes of running Second Life on something like a Chromebook or even a large form factor tablet, like an iPad Pro, something of that nature, is going to have to be something streamed. There's probably no way in Second Life's current iteration that we will ever get something like OpenGL to be able to handle rendering a scene that has the complexity of and do it successfully to our, what I think is our fairly lofty and high-reaching standards. I want it to look good. I want it to be performant, and in order to get that, it's gonna be a streaming. Where that lands and when, it's unclear. But we are actually working on it. We've been actively developing various actual streaming clients in the background, and testing them and trying to figure out what the best path to success might look like. And we've done that in the past. We've actually had some of those available in the past, if you remember, like OnLive and such. It worked. It was expensive. It was very young in its technology. But a lot of that stuff has come quite a ways since then, and so we think that the time to leverage technology to our benefit at a reasonable cost is not far off the horizon.
Well, and I'm assuming that cloud services like AWS sort of help manage that cost a fair bit as well.
Sure, right. There's always the scaling aspect to cost. The more you eat, the cheaper it is. sort of notion. And so however that factors in, will also be a benefit. There's no such thing out there right now, and this is what I just to kind of set expectations. There's no such thing out there right now as an all-you-can-eat plan, right? It's kind of like cellular data. Unlimited is not really unlimited. There's still a cost. And with streaming data and or streaming rendering services, they usually charge, some number of cents per, call it a gigabyte or an hour of streaming, whatever it is they want to equate it to. And so, if we were to try and take something like that and wrap it into, let's say, a premium subscription offering, there would most likely have to be some sort of a cap, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's as you said, free is not necessarily free, right? There's somebody's paying somewhere along the line. I'd like to switch over to the operation side of things. So this is probably more in your bailiwick. So in terms of operationally changes that are going on, what are some of the core things that you guys have introduced over the last year that people might see from a service perspective that are new?
I'm pondering on the question. Do you mean from a technical service perspective, or do you mean just from an purely operational perspective?
Purely from an operational service delivery standpoint. I mean,
got it.
A lot of the educators, like, some are on their own, some come through the I guess the educational areas, right? Because they're being paid for by their educational groups. Not everybody is necessarily on a premium plan, but we all rely on you guys. We rely on Linden's, we rely on the moles, right? And certainly educators have an expectation that we can bring students in here safely.
Right.
So I'm wondering what's like over the last year, have there been new things operationally? Like I saw this Boxy 5000 thing.
Right.
That you guys introduced.
Yeah, so, again, not directly externally facing. I have increased our support staff. I'm sensitive to wait times. I don't like people having to wait for an answer. And out of that came the addition of several new folks to the support team. Year over year, from last year to this year, we increased our headcount by 4. 4 additional people, not 4 times, just to be clear. And that that has allowed us to maintain the pace in which I like to get things answered. So I'm trying to think of how to not spill this. With the addition of Premium Plus, you're going to see some additional benefits come from a support perspective. And I'm going to leave that at that, as to not spoil what's coming. But operationally,
spoil it.
Let's just say you will have additional avenues to get support in new ways. I don't know if I cut out there. I saw my.
Well, this will be interesting to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, so and in that, right, part of that efficiency pass in getting more folks in, helping out, answering things faster, you may remember, even over a year ago, we had kind of put in this bot, much to everybody's kind of negative reception. It does actually help. And so the original bot's artificial intelligence wasn't great, and we knew that. But we had to start somewhere. And when folks come into live chat and would ask a question, the bot always just tries to take the best path that it can in its poor little circuitry brain and, say, oh, well, I think you're asking me about how to file an abuse report, so here's how to file an abuse report. Well, the new bot is actually truly AI driven. The other one really kind of wasn't. It was programmatic. But the new bot has actually consumed the entire support knowledge base and can quite smartly, in many cases, figure out what it is you're trying to ask it and try to provide you with an information match to help you out. Of course, there's always still the fail-safe. I have always kind of held it as a tenet to say, bots annoy me, and I know they annoy people in general. But if you're willing to at least give it a try, do. But if you don't, then bypass it, please. I don't care. That might be me talking down our own thing, but it is available there if you want to give it a shot, and it may be helpful. Like if you're trying to do something utilitarian, like rename a region, and you just don't know how to go about getting it done, ask it. Say, how do I rename my region? And it will give you the answer. It will tell you exactly what you need to do. Okay, the other cool thing that it can now do too is it can restart your region. And there's some other little Easter eggs in there.
Well, that will be kind of neat.
Yep.
So will I be able to get a Boxy for my regions and actually be able to interact with it in world here?
In theory, you could if you just put your support page up on a media on a prim display and use it there. But I don't think we've thought about how to actually port Boxy into being in world officially. That's actually something that I thought about originally, and because we only just got it out the door within the past couple of weeks, I'm going to turn the team's attention back to seeing if there's a way we can do something interesting with that.
Yeah. From an education perspective, however, will Boxy also have the education answer to a number of questions?
Yes. So if you ask about, how do I go about getting a discounted educational region and such, it will actually have the context and knowledge to be able to refer you to how to sign up for one, for example.
Cool. Okay. So you talked a little bit about support levels, which was actually one of my questions, so I'll put that one aside for the moment. But one of the other areas that educators tend to have a bit of a challenge with is handling griefers coming onto their properties. And I'm wondering if there are new tools coming out that will sort of assist us with those particular types of issues.
So Boxy is equipped with some tools, just so you know, to help you with some griefing situations if you go and tell it that you're having an issue. Okay, I am now suddenly drawing a blank. It was supposed to be able to even file an abuse report for you, but I don't remember if we've actually completed that yet. So stand by on that, and I'll ask somebody in the background and double check. But I did want it to actually be able to do that. It's in the big list of features that it was supposed to have. You know, as far as new tools, there isn't anything new that we've developed recently beyond something like Boxy's assistance to help handle griefing. But I do want to say that my team is very open and receptive and will help during the hours that they're there. If something is going on and you need immediate help, please do come into support. Or if you're in, I believe Midori may even have a Discord set up to where you can, you know, get assistance from Midori on educational items and needs. You know, do feel free to surface it with her there, and she can help you. So, okay. Open door. Always, please come to us if you need additional assistance because something is going on. We will do our best to help immediately.
Awesome. I want to switch topics a little bit here now. With Brad having come in, and now the big announcement with Philip coming back, what type of changes should we be looking forward to as a result of this partnership happening again?
So Philip is back in an advisory capacity to Brad, and Brad is my boss. And or the Office of Second Life's boss. And so the dynamic there is that we, and I say collectively we as in the Office of Second Life, myself, Grumpity, Brett, and Mojo, will and do leverage Philip from time to time as a sounding board. You know, I fondly usually say that I kind of grew up with Philip as a Linden, and I worked with him very closely as I could before he left originally, and absolutely, you know, value his views on everything that has to do with Second Life. I learned a lot from him originally, and you know, I like to credit him with, you know, why I'm here in a lot of ways. So Philip is, you know, there for us as a resource, so that, you know, if we're thinking of, you know, very big strategy type decisions that we may have to make and how to make them, may go to him for his input. But in general, as I mentioned earlier, the Office of Second Life is responsible for the day-to-day operations and, you know, strategic direction of Second Life going forward.
Okay, so it is in fact a consulting type relationship. Like, I mean, a lot of the Wi-Fi intellectual property isn't sort of coming over with them type of thing. Or hi-fi, rather.
Right, yes. Yes, correct.
Okay, what about the expansion of how do you pronounce it? Tilia? Tilia. I've noticed that platform has started to expand into a couple of other different virtual world platforms. how much is that playing a role in the product roadmap for Second Life development?
Well, Tilia,
Because that's
certainly.
Brad's baby, isn't it?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's our baby too. As I think most people are aware, Tilia was born out of the necessity to deal with and handle, increasing regulation in the financial stakes side of virtual worlds. That has led to Tilia finding its own footing in that space and start additional products with services that are not dissimilar from how they provide service basically for us in Second Life. Handling all of that, and it's certainly not my area of expertise, but handling the financial side, the compliance, the regulation side, risk mitigation side of things is absolutely all their wheelhouse, and I'm glad to have them on board with us to be able to do so. It's a huge mind share that at one point in time we all had to dedicate ourselves to. And now that they basically can do that, it kind of frees us up to be able to focus on what we're really good at, and that's the virtual world of Second Life, and improving our product. So in a lot of ways, Tilia will continue to find success and guide us all to being successful, responsible, and doing things the right way legally as time goes on.
Right. So Tilia, because I guess my initial impression is that Tilia was essentially a replacement for PayPal, which most people tend to use to, send money to Linden Lab and what have you back and forth. But it sounds like Tilia is actually more embedded into the actual dollar Linden economy. Like it's doing all of the active management of the actual dollar Linden transactions. Is that correct, or
partly
is that
no.
incorrect?
So Tilia does not manage the Linden dollar and the Linden dollar economy. That's actually my job. They manage the US dollar side, so the US dollar wallets on all of your accounts and the interaction therein. So the act of purchasing Lindens on the Linden dollar exchange partly falls in my court and partly falls in theirs. If you're, let's say, selling Linden dollars on the exchange, I'm monitoring and taking care of that, and then that money that comes from the exchange of the Linden dollars lands in your US dollar Tilia wallet, then is theirs, in their wheelhouse, right? So kind of the line of demarcation exists in between the US dollar transactions and things that happen, and you are correct. They are a licensed MSB and money transmitter services business, so they are able to both take and remit payment to and from our US dollar Tilia wallets on our accounts.
Okay. I want to get your sense. So I'm going to switch topics again. I want to get your sense of Mr. Zuckerberg and the whole meta thing. Where do you guys see that whole meta thing going? Because there's obviously a conflict between our entire community and the fact that there's this feeling that Facebook is trying to run away with something that they don't actually own or shouldn't be owning.
Right. So, first of all, we have legs. And I am very attached to my legs most of the time. Uh, I mean, you can always choose to not have legs. That's okay.
Yes.
I had to pull a joke. So I thank Mr. Zuckerberg for putting a huge spotlight on the metaverse business, and then I like to take it to the next notch down, which is the virtual world business. I don't think anyone, my opinion on this is, I don't think anyone owns the rights to like the metaverse. That's like someone saying they own the internet, in my opinion. I see virtual worlds, and many of them potentially coming online and all being a part of the greater thing called the metaverse. But at the end of the day, Facebook is just going to make another virtual world. And I wish them success in their endeavors. It's very hard to do. Being one of the captains at the ship of, the oldest and largest virtual world is tough. While I love it to death, it's got its challenges, and I've seen all of those challenges over the years. And they're just now starting to, kind of learn about what those are, and they're going to hit them too. So my best guarded secret is not to tell them any of that, and let them figure it out on their own. I kind of see it as an all boats rise situation, though, because all of the various players in virtual world and metaverse spaces tending to be referred to, will all, I think, come together at some point and, realize that they're all trying to do the same thing. And so if at some point, we stand out of the crowd, and I think we stand out of the crowd today, as the leader in that space, we will continue to have and measure our successes on watching the others try to emulate us.
There is an issue, however, with regards to demographics. It's in part an issue for us here in Second Life. It's an issue for Facebook, insofar as a lot of the residents inside Second Life tend to be older. Facebook tends to be a bit of a younger crowd, but even they're missing out on the quote-unquote TikTok generation. So from a positioning standpoint, right, are there things that are happening which are designed to sort of I guess make platforms like this a little bit more relevant to a broader demographic of people, like getting younger people in?
Yes. So, as I spoke of a little while ago, without revealing too much, our efforts in the various our mobile strategies, we feel will have a pretty big effect on this, and our current projects that we are working on and product operations also include a redesign of the new user experience. So you've already seen part of that rollout with the new user starter region, Welcome Island. And there's more of that to come. It's rolling in phases. The next really big portion of the project will touch avatars. And I think people will be really, really excited and pleased to see what we're going to be bringing out. Revolutionary. and it fits with my team's goals of growing Second Life, which is what this all kind of leads up to. We have committed to ourselves to grow Second Life over the next several years, and my goal is to try and double the average avatar population in Second Life, because I strongly feel that the more active and participating folks you have in world, in Second Life, the more it benefits everybody. And that goes just in 100 different directions, right? Yeah, the opportunities to socialize, the friends, the business, the shopping, the land ownership, everything benefits from more users. And so we're working diligently, albeit quietly, in some cases, on various projects that we believe are going to lead us to achieving that goal.
You mentioned earlier about concurrency with inside a region. What about across the grid? You had said about doubling
the grid
capacity. I mean, because before we used to hit 100,000 people and everything would come to a crash.
Yeah, that's behind us. We can scale now to whatever we want as far as the entire grid is concerned, which again, a benefit of the elasticity behind being on something like the AWS infrastructure. There's no limit there. We can go as big as we want.
Okay, so the first time we hit 100,000, everybody's going to be hunky-dory.
Everything should be fine.
That'll be amazing once we get back to those numbers again. I don't think I've got too many more questions for you at this point. Is there anything coming up specific with regards to education, educators, that you'd like to sort of put out there for folks to look forward to right at the moment?
Well, we talked about the high capacity event regions. I will offer those with an educational discount, so that if anybody is interested in them, of course, we'll continue to do so. With the current full regions offerings we have there, so that'll probably be in line with those offerings of the past as well. Keep your eye on developments around Premium Plus. I do think that there will be some benefits and such that you will have from having that type of an account, including various increases and decreases to certain elements of what you can do. And I don't mean decreases in a bad way.
Yeah.
Hint, Teresa. The Avatar project that I spoke of, I think will greatly benefit educational facilities, especially those who use things like Reg API to sign up students. Like I said, the best word I can use is it will revolutionize your entry into the virtual world, into Second Life, at the avatar level. Yeah, I think that's what we can look forward to in the near term of the year. Without going out much beyond the end of the year.
Okay, two other questions just dawn on me as we were talking about the high capacity regions. Are they also going to include more prims and more land as part of a single region, or are they still going to restrict to what we have access to now?
At the moment, still basically, a full region is a full region, but we'll have maybe the capacity to go up to a theoretical max of 200. Separately, right? If I were to consider adjusting the land impact limits on a region or something of that nature, I would look at doing that grid wide for all of the products equally. And I would start with probably testing again, like we did in the past when we've done this with mainland regions. Just to make sure that we're not missing anything from a performance impact perspective, even though we can test things, hilt as it were, until we're blue in the face, whatever you want to say. There's always, it's never as simple as it seems.
Yes.
And that's one of those situations where it could bite us. So, no matter how much testing we throw at it, we would probably want to then test it at a controlled scale, which is like the collection of mainland regions. Blanked out there again. Mainland regions and Linden home. And then roll that into like the private island products, right? If everything is holding. So I would think of that from that perspective, and not necessarily in the context of, just because we're doing event regions with really high capacity that we would adjust the prim limits.
Right, okay, so the idea that there would be a mega region with 75,000 prims is still sort of off the table, but if you were to introduce it in the future, it would be across the board.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, we do have individual control now, and in fact, if you look at some of our internal built regions and such, they do have land impact limits as high as that. So it's possible. But we didn't consider it as kind of part of the product feature. This specific type of region.
Okay. Cool. Well, I think we've come to the end of our 50 minutes. I'd like to thank you very much for coming here to talk to us again at this year's conference. And I'm hoping that, we're going to get more of a chance to see you throughout the year as we go along.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me again.